All right, meanwhile, the appeals court ruling is keeping our borders open and putting us certainly at risk, especially since this will only embolden the State Department to admit as many people as possible. You hear me citing these numbers just in the last week alone. Take a look at that map. All the people that we've been bringing in the last 7 days, 74% of these refugees let in since Judge Robart's February 3rd order, they have come from countries that our president warned that government cannot properly vet. In other words, these governments have no idea who's in their country, so they can't share that information with us, and yet somehow we're vetting them? When Obama's own administration said over and over and over again they couldn't be vetted, what has changed? Joining me right now, former President George W. Bush Foreign Policy Advisor, Paul Bonicelli. Paul, good to have you here. Look, I said it before, all this legal stuff is going on. In the meantime, if you're the President of the United States, you got a country to run, which means you've got a country that you need to keep safe. How do you deal with this onslaught of refugees coming in from countries that we know harbor terrorists?
Well, you're exactly right. The governor earlier said he's not a lawyer, but he commented anyway exactly correctly. And you don't have to be a lawyer to understand it. It is a constitutional fact that the president makes these decisions. It's constitutional, it's statutory. You've mentioned the 1952 Act. And he's got one simple job to do when it comes to immigration, and that's to make sure that no one comes in that we deem unsafe. And he has every right to do what he's done. I do believe he'll prevail in the end. But in the meantime, politics is trumping our national security. That's what this court has been doing. That's what the critics of the president are doing.
That's scary.
It really is.
What does that tell you about where we're heading?
Well, I think that we're heading for a very difficult 4 years where the critics of the president, the opponents of the president, whether they're in courts or not, are determined to stop what he's doing. They have already made a priori judgments that he's wrong about what he's doing. His motivations aren't right. We know that we have a circuit court that has talked about the motivations of a president and referred to campaign speeches, which has nothing to do with what he's doing. It had nothing to do with anything Obama did or Carter or anyone else. They're making judgments about national security. And as I said, they're going to win in the end. But in the meantime, we have to put the rights, the so-called rights of possible students or professors from Iran and other countries above the national security of the United States.
Yeah, you know what, Paul, though? You talk about the Ninth Circuit, and I want to share with you, Supreme Court admonishes Ninth Circuit, direct quote from 2011, because you know what? The Ninth Circuit, quote, exhibited judicial disregard for, quote, sound and established principles of law. I mean, our own Supreme Court is telling us that the Ninth Circuit doesn't know how to do its job, and yet the Ninth Circuit and a judge in Seattle is getting in the way of the very essence of the presidency. I mean, I keep saying this, that the one thing we need to be able to do is secure our borders and keep our people safe.
Absolutely. And this is a judge who can't read as much intelligence as, a captain in the military. It's absurd that he would think that he has the right to do that, the role to do that. You would think, actually, that he would prefer to be judicious and stay away from decisions he can't make and shouldn't make. But I do think this is activism. It is blatantly opposed to the president is what it is. And I'm sorry for that. I would say that if it was a Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter who it is. It's a very dangerous thing.
No, and unfortunately, our legal system has just gotten flooded in recent years with activist judges, and it's just wrong. Their job, their one and only job should be to uphold and interpret the law, and yet they're trying to remake the world as they see fit in an image that they want, and this is where you get into all kinds of trouble. Right. Paul, it's good to see you. Thank you for joining me today.
Good to see you, Trish. Thanks.